Well, Bards, this week's show is brought to you by the number 13 and 26 and the letter F.
Everybody get up.
13, 26 and F. Please explain.
Yeah. 13 is Cheney, 26 is Hawkins, and F, well, that's an adjective which rhymes with duck.
So it's nothing to do with Leon Rice and Rodney Heath?
No.
Fair enough. Yes, mate, not one of our better days. Anyway, we're still in the top four. We'll move on.
Well, scores.
Hawthorn 12-15-87. Defeated by Geelong 15-16-106.
Goal kickers weren't as numerous this week, were they?
Not as many, although we still had a decent spread, but just not enough. Gunston 3, Bruce 3, and singles to Hale, Rioli, Duray, McAvoy, Hallahan and Smith.
Do you want to go your Barslow medalists 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 before we get stuck into this game?
I will, mate. And look, it's hard to give out 5 in a losing game, but I've actually given it to young Will Langford. I thought his job on Selwood was excellent, kept him to 20, but not so much that, but the amount of crap he took from the Geelong players. I think what's his name, Hawkins gave him one at one stage. They were getting right stuck into him, and he did not take a backward step. He fronted him on every chance and just kept going. So, look, 5 for effort and also for doing a good quelling job. Forward to Gunston, only real spark up forward, or 1 of 2. Another goal in the last quarter might have been made it a bit more interesting, but he still presented all day and worked both ways. 3 to Mitchell, our best midfielder on the day. Could have been better, but he's probably better than the other blokes anyway. 2 to Bruce, who was lively again, just needs to do it a bit more often throughout the match, but 3 goals, I can't complain too much. And I've given 1 to Taylor Duray, who I thought played his best game for the year.
Yeah, there are a lot of blokes who went missing this game. They're just like Adam, who's gone missing tonight.
There were a few that were not to be seen.
I think they left early like he did.
Did he go early again?
He said not to mention that, but I said the minute he mentioned that, it was always going to get mentioned.
Indeed. But I shouldn't say much because I wasn't there. Yeah, and a few blokes, you look at the stat sheet, they had a bit of the ball, but more so impact on the game. And we won't mince words. Blokes like Hodge, Roughhead, although he did have an ankle injury earlier, I'm hoping that was what was pulling him back. McAvoy, Suckling, Rioli, too many that didn't have an impact. Even Birch, who had plenty of the ball, just didn't use it well. For a side we sort of claim to be the best kicking side in footy, and never have sides try to kick the ball like we do now, so we're probably the best kicking side of all time. And to have a bad day where we can't hit targets, and not even just missing the targets, but just taking the wrong option time and time again. It wasn't pretty at all, and we know we're better than that.
But I know we won by 99 points last week, but I do suspect that playing in the Gold Coast when it's quite humid at this time of the year, and you've still got to run for the 4 quarters, must have had some impact later in the game.
May well have. I guess, these blokes do huge pre-seasons and they're pretty fit, but a change condition can make a difference, I guess. The first half against Gold Coast, as Jeff Smith pointed out, was very tough. Very hard sort of footy, and we thought we might carry a bit out of that, but the way we ran the game out in the end there, it was pretty cruisy. So maybe a little bit there, but I don't know. It's a bit of an excuse, I think.
And this was always going to be a challenge for us to try and bring in a couple of new blokes too, right? They're not new to the side, but actually trying to reintroduce players in a big game is always quite dangerous at times. McAvoy and Stratton.
Yeah, both struggled overall. I remember one stage, Stratton just missed a target. We would run the ball down for a goal, or would have been a scoring opportunity. Bloke down the wing by himself, he misses the target, goes back the other way and they get the goal. I know it's one mistake, but it just stands out. And McAvoy just didn't seem to be able to get out of a trot, other than his big mark and the points there and the resulting goal. Doesn't fire a shot in the centre bounces, which we kind of knew when we got him. He's not a great centre bounce ruckman, but his strength is getting around the ground and taking marks, and really didn't have much effect doing that at all. And so I kind of wondered if he might have been better going through Box Hill for a week, especially considering the form that Segler had been in the couple of games that he's played.
Agreed. Now, I allude to that whole discussion, because you see everyone talking about Lake should have been in and Sheedy shouldn't have been playing on Hawkins, and that's probably right. But at the end of the day, if you bring McAvoy in, you bring Stratton in, and you try and bring Lake in, then that's going to be tough enough as it is when you're playing the top team.
Yeah, it is. Look, it's all well and good in hindsight to say that these blokes should have played, and it kind of felt like, we needed that extra big body the way Hawkins was. But, I guess Clarko's got a point. When you look at it, say that Hawkins, he kicked 5 for the game. He only had 2 up to the start of the last quarter, so you probably think Cheney's probably getting a break even there. Just the way the numbers and the way the ball came in last quarter really killed him, and we just didn't have the other option to swing onto him. So, look, Lake probably would have been underdone. He'd only played a half at Box Hill prior to that. As it turned out, he played a full game Saturday night, or pretty much, and got back into the swing of things a bit. So we'll get him back this week. It's early days, and Clarko said, you don't risk a player or for a season for the sake of 4 points early on. So I guess he's got the score on the board, Clarko, and we've got to go with what he says.
I reckon there was one other tactic that Clarko got wrong too, and that was the vest wearer. He gave Simpkin a run from the very beginning. When that bloke is allocated as our designated vest wearer to come in late in the third quarter and early in the fourth quarter, and to be honest, after we saw Mitch Hallahan came in, he looked like a ready-made player, didn't he?
Yeah, he looked really good, Mitch. And a game that was going to be so tough around the ball, without Sewell, and obviously Sewell's a selection issue at the moment, whether he gets back in or not, but his hardness at the ball and Shields being out, Hallahan could have, in hindsight, been quite handy in that role. Simpkin did it right. He got plenty of the ball, and he probably does have to have a decent run at some stage, because you can't just play a quarter and a half every week. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen Mitch get started, even if he subbed off into the third quarter, but just give him a real shot at it. But he looked good when he came on, and I dare say he'll get a full crack this week.
I dare say he'll get votes from you this year, Bards.
Mate, if he gets enough games, he will, because he's that sort of player. He's very hard at it, gets plenty of it, can be a little bit one-paced, but still room for those sort of footballers in AFL if you've got the likes of Hill and Smith and Piopo and these blokes that sort of give you the pace to the outside, so you can get away with being a little bit one pace as long as you've got blokes to feed it out to, and he's definitely got that ability, and he can kick a goal as we saw, kicks plenty for Box Hill as well. So yeah, if he gets a full run, I reckon he'll get a vote, no worries at all.
Alright, time for a blast.
Indicator. Right shoulder up. 1, 2, 3, 4. Left shoulder up. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Alright, mate, this one's going to be no surprise to anyone, especially those that have been reading our page over the weekend. And we're talking about variable ticketing that the AFL's brought in. This is absolute rubbish, this stuff. It is a pure money grab, which we're not surprised. That's all Andrew's been concerned about. His KPIs are all about money. But this game, I had a look through the records, and on an average it attracts about 70,000 on the Easter Monday. Some of the games mid-year where it's been on a Saturday night have got 80, but it's basically a 60 to 70,000 crowd. And they've decided that, well, we don't want people missing out. We'll have to make everyone buy a ticket, including all these Hawthorn members that should have had free entry. And then at 11 o'clock in the morning they decide, well, it's not going to be a sellout. We'll open up the AFL members reserve and you can swipe your card and walk in. Luckily for me, I had decided not to go, so I didn't spend the money. But I know Jeff Smith was saying he spent $30 a head or whatever it was for him, and the old man could have walked up and swiped the card. Your seat's not that much better anyway. It's not like for $30 you're getting a great seat. You may as well be on the top deck, swipe your card, walk in. Pretty straightforward, really. Instead of that rubbish, why not just have, all right, members, it's going to be a big crowd. If you want a guaranteed seat, you can buy a ticket. If not, roll up on the day and swipe your card. There's no guarantee you'll get in. That gives you the choice. And I reckon you probably find about a 50-50 mix of those that want to make sure and those that are prepared to take the risk and get there early. But all they want is the money, as we know, and yeah, away we go. We'll see what happens.
Right, we had to fire the cannon, but we're going to have some discussion, because clearly we saw this coming for a long way off. You give people 4 days off over an Easter break and you give them Facebook and off they go. And I follow a number of these sites, as you do as well, Bards. One of them is We Are Hawthorn, and they were off and running on Friday, and I joined in that conversation, and rightly so, because this is called a replacement game. This is not a replacement plus player premium game. We allow our team to go and play in Tassie 4 games, and as a result, we get 4 games back here. We're not up for paying for that, especially given they've raised the prices time in, time again. When are they going to learn that at some stage people are going to stop paying and they're going to stop going?
This year's been a case in point. Our game was probably one of the better games of football for the year, and it's the only game with a crowd anywhere near 80,000 so far, and I think that's part of it. They've compared it to prices rising and then you pay extra for a good banana or something rubbish like that. Well, fans have an emotional involvement. We don't choose to go to a game because, this will be a great game. We'll go watch Hawthorn Geelong because it's a great game. We go to it because it's Hawthorn playing. And it's the same with every other club. So you turn up one week and you can go to the game and it costs you $20 and you go to the game the next week to see the same your club play. You don't want to pay more for it. It's no different to you. Maybe for a few neutral fans that might be the case, but the advantage the AFL get there is the neutral fans will go to the game and add to the crowd. But the supporters that you want going every week are the ones that you should be looking after, and variable price, and it's just not needed. Set your price, stick with it, and away you go, and everyone's happy. Fans put a lot into this game, and I think they've been taken for granted a bit.
Well, on one hand, you want the fans to turn up at the ground. The other hand, you want the TV rights. Well, if you want the TV rights, you're not going to have the crowds if you're going to keep charging them, because the TV is going to be a much more favourable option, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is, and you can understand why. I mean, there's always going to be a certain fans, and myself's one of them when work's not in the way, that will go no matter what, but that becomes I'll go when I can use my membership and scan at the gate and walk in. If I've got to pay a premium, like the Essendon game the other week, or going to Geelong, it's just not right. You might pay it every now and then, but you're going to get sick of it, and I think the AFL's really dropped the ball in this one, and I'm hoping that fans get together and actually make a stance against it. And one thing I've noticed, that there's a page popped up on my Facebook feed the other day, and I've just checked out their website, and it's the AFL Fans Association, and look, they're only about 1,300 strong at the moment, but there's no reason why they couldn't be a couple of 100,000 strong if the word gets around. And they've got some decent people in place trying to set up an organisation to give the fans a voice, and it's the one thing that's missing. The AFL is run by a commission which members are voted in by the clubs, but clubs always have their own agendas. Things that suit the clubs might not necessarily be exactly what the fans want, but the clubs are there to try to win a flag. So fans should have a decent say in these things, whether they need a representative on the commission or just an advisory group or something. But there's wheels in motion, there's petitions getting around. I urge everyone to sort of look them up, AFL Fan Association, which is aflfans.org. Join in, see where it goes. It might not go anywhere, they might become a toothless tiger, but it's worth having a look, and if we get behind them, they might do something.
I join them, Bards, especially I like their humour with the Coliseum.
Yeah.
And for people who haven't seen it, here it is.
Yep, very clever that one was.
Certainly was. So we'll keep an eye on this ticketing arrangement, but I walked down to the ground thinking about this and went past the guy selling the footy record. I don't know how much that is now, because I gave that away a long time ago. So if the family wants one of those, what's that, about $5?
Yeah,
it's probably more.
I think it's $5.
You walk into the ground, you have the kids, you don't have that much to eat and drink, but that's another $50, and they want, pay a premium on top of that for ticketing prices. Price point. It's pretty tough out there, and AFL got to think about price points on everything they do. I can tell you that Wedders and I were comparing the English Premier League, and there's not that exorbitant sort of markup on all those things as you walk into ground at the Premier League. So, if they can get it right, the AFL have to start thinking about it too.
That's it, mate. I don't know if you saw last week, someone had a picture up on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere of prices of food at the Augusta for the US Masters, which is, a pretty hoity-toity sort of event. And the price of food was about $2 for a sandwich, $1.50 for a coffee. Obviously, Americans cheaper because of the way their wages are, but there was no one scooping extra money out of that. They were just making a bit of profit for what they were selling, not trying to rip people off.
All right, well, that's been a good part of the show, Bards, and I am going to encourage people during the course of this week, when this goes up on the various sites, to contribute to the discussion and let them give us some views about what they thought about what we had to say and what they think of the AFL Fans Association as well. So we don't have an Ask Wedders, because as we've already bagged Wedders, he's not here, but he's actually taking care of some guests out from Germany. And one of the things that I noticed, Wedders was helping his German friends get familiar with the game. And, round two, Wedders and I took a guy from work, Dabashi, who's out here from India, and I had the same experience, and it's quite novel. It's quite novel actually having people that don't understand the game, because you actually have to try and explain what the game's all about. And do you realise how much you take the game for granted?
I could imagine, because it is pretty crazy from an outsider's point of view, I reckon.
Just some of the basic rules, like who takes the kick for goal? Is it a special penalty kicker?
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
There you go. Do they have numbers for positions? Well, they used to.
Long gone, that one. They would have appreciated the names on the back. How'd you go reading them from the stands?
Well, forget about the names on the back. What did you think of the disgusting strip that we wore?
So there's the AFL playing around again. We wore the jumper that was a tribute to the back-to-back premierships of 88-89 with the all-gold back, without the brown stripes on the bottom. But they threw in the gold socks that we whacked on in the 1989 season. But someone obviously forgot to tell them which colour they were when they said gold, and they made them bright orange. Looked like tradies' bloody high-vis socks that we had going there, especially with Hodgie's boots. That was just a ridiculous setup. So maybe they're going to go retro with the socks. They should have gone retro and worn black boots as well, but it wasn't a different outfit. But yeah, there we go. We're trying to wear an old jumper as a nod to the past when we won a couple of flags, and the AFL picked that round to make us stick our names on the back of it.
Well, if you remember though, we had an exemption from wearing the away shorts in 1989 for that very reason, because that jumper with that back and those chicken legs socks with white shorts, not a good look.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Maybe that's half the reason we got done on Monday.
It ain't pretty. I've done the show. It ain't pretty when the pretty leaves you with no place to go.
All right, well, I'm going to ask a couple of questions which I probably would have asked Wedders if he was here. One which he brought up during the game, and that was Gunston is an A-grader. Bards, do you reckon Gunston's an A-grader?
He's right on the verge of it, especially following on from his final series last year. His kicking for goal is so good. All right, he missed one then, but he can't kick them all. But no, if he's not an A-grader, he's very close to it. And I think you'd find that if he was on the open market, we'd get massive overs for him because every club would love him there now. And his recruitment was a piece of genius by the powers that be at the time. So, yeah, look, he's probably our best forward. I guess Ruffy's in that mix as well, but he's in our best couple. But he'll definitely finish the career as well and truly an A-grader.
So that's going to be our question for the week. Is Gunston an A-grader? What do we think of Gunston and the recruiting genius of Graham Wright? And the last one, which I picked up on a thread, I think again it was when We Are Hawthorn, and that was to your point about Will Langford. Now I've gone early and I've said that guy is tough enough that he'll be one day a future captain of Hawthorn, just like his old man. What do you reckon about that?
Oh, that's a big early crow. Yeah, look, definitely got the toughness to be a leader. Whether his body holds up to it, he's had a few issues early on with his body, with the way he goes in, so he's got to stay on the park, and he probably needs to develop a bit more than just being a pure tagger to lead the club. But certainly he's got some Hawthorn qualities about him, the kid, that's for sure.
We'll be recording in 7 years' time, and I'll just bring that recording up.
All right, I remember someone telling me that Xavier Ellis was going to be the captain of Hawthorn too.
That wasn't me.
Sorry, should clarify, it wasn't you, but he was touted as a future captain.
Alright, well, that's some questions that Wedders would have been asked to answer. Not here. Hope he's enjoying touring around the country. And we'll now move on to Nearest to the Pin. And here's a sound with the tee off that we did not want to hear.
4!
The water, Bards. Not good, eh?
Into the water. No good, but had to happen sooner or later, so I guess that doesn't count as one of our 10.
No, and disappointing, because I went out and recruited Sully and the goal this week.
Oh, well, mate, we'll have to get him back on again next week then.
So no movements in Nearest to the Pin. Scores from last week's stand.
Alright, so we know where we're at.
So, into the Richmond game. Sunday, 3:20. G, replacement game. No additional price included, I think.
Is it definitely a replacement game, is it? I did not realise that.
It's a replacement game, yep.
Well, there you go. So maybe I should see if I can get myself there, get some value out of the membership. Yeah, look, mate, a fixture for us in the last couple of years has been awful in that I think we've lost by a combined total of about 18 goals the last 2 years. But hopefully coming off that loss, the boys are going to be a bit fired up, and Richmond have been generally struggling this year, so I think we can win it. We'll probably get Brian back this week. That'll help shore up the back line a bit. Not sure who'll go out, possibly Cheney, but he probably deserves a run because he's been so good, but they'll find someone to slide Brian in, and we'll go from there.
So, Langford on Cochin?
You'd think so. Cochin didn't handle that tag very well last time round when McCaffer gave it to him. My Supercoach side would prefer Cochin just to be let run free and we still win the game. But yeah, look, Langford's obviously, he's been groomed into playing that real genuine hard hard tag role, he's the obvious one to go to. I don't think Deludio's back yet, is he?
No.
So I don't think Richmond have got much else you'd bother tagging, to be honest. So he's the one that we'd want to go to. And we'll just have to watch to see if Richmond pick up their protection of Cochin. And if so, a few boys will need to come in and look after Langus, but he don't mind looking after himself as well.
And who plays on Rewalt?
I dare say if Brian comes in, he should play on him, especially if he gets back to goals. Last week they played Rewalt a lot closer to goal, which is where he prefers to play. If he gets up the ground, then I'm not fussed who runs with him. Cheney would probably be a good matchup if he got up the ground. And Cheney would probably go right on him in a key role too, because he hasn't got the size, Jack, that Hawkins has. But I think if he's near goal, Brian's the one who reads the ball the best, and he's the one to play on him. The key again will be freeing up Gibson so he can help out.
All right, well, let's have a crack at nearest to the pin.
4!
24 points for me, Grant.
4!
But I'm going 27 Bards, so we won't get any movement between ourselves this week.
No, we'll be pretty close together.
I feel so close to you right now.
And on that note, we better go and say, go Hawks!
Count Hawks.